Hi, you're watching Acorns to Oaks. Thank you so much for listening today and joining us. I'm Kristine Dixon, board certified behavior analyst and board certified advocate of special education. And with me today is the phenomenal Sarah Moreau. Hello, board certified behavior analyst, registered nurse practitioner, peer certified, pivotal response treatment certified. I'm sure there's so many certifications I'm missing for you, Sarah.
That's okay. I think that's more than enough to cover today.
Yes.
But we're going to talk about something very exciting today.
Yeah, we're coming in hot.
That's right.
5 most controversial topics in applied behavior analysis. It's in the discourse, and I'm glad there's controversy. We should look at these things, and we should talk about them, and we should also actively listen.
That's true.
When we're talking about them. But topic number 1, are we teaching meaningful life skills or encouraging masking of autistic traits?
I believe that we strive to teach life skills that really matter to that individual. Masking,
I'm masking right now.
I think,
So
yeah.
it's like, I think masking is a part of everybody's reality.
I agree.
Um,
I speak very differently with my friends, with my family, than I would with a client or someone that I'm working with professionally, a patient.
Yeah.
I think it depends also on the setting. You know, what the expectations are in that setting and what your goals are for yourself in that setting.
I don't think we're really working on changing traits. I've never written a treatment goal that's like, we're going to change this trait about you.
Right.
It's more like, what do you want to do? What are the steps? How can we break down these tasks? How can we make it more functional, easier?
How can we work on social communication, on topic comments and questions in a social setting? I mean, I don't really see that as masking, but again, I think it goes back to the individual and what they want for themselves.
Yes. And so one of the things that we sometimes encounter, and that we're both certified in peers, and I won't ask you to do the acronym again, but,
Thank you.
you know, friends lead to meaningful and happiness outcomes. And so some of the things that we see, and a lot of times when we enter into the homes and we're getting to know the clients, there's a little bit of heartbreak. Because one of the stories that we do hear very often is, Tammy wants to have friends so badly, but doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's tough because when you're dealing with friends and meaningful outcomes of friendship and the science of making friends, there is some societal norms and rules. Like, you can't get too close to people.
That's right.
And you can't talk too loudly. And you can't ask them 100 questions in a row.
You can't ask them things that are too personal right away.
Or tell them information that's too personal about yourself.
Yeah, correcting someone's grammar when they're speaking. People don't like that. So learning these skills, I don't equate that to masking. I equate that to being able to be successful in a social setting if that's something that you want. Because not everybody does.
Yeah, and that's okay. But science does tell us that community is an important part of longevity and also vitality and also happiness outcomes. So that is something we balance with, I think everybody is masking. I do think that the autistic community might be masking more. And I do want to hear what they have to say. So if you have some insights on masking, I'd love to hear from you. We would, in terms of what that means for you and what reality that is. And
yeah, and having that understanding, I think, with the people that we work with helps us to serve them better. So we appreciate any discourse.
And we serve clients from 2 to 65. So we have a ton of young adults. We have a ton of teenagers. None of them have said to me, I'm masking, or used that term, or
Yeah, I have not heard that from any of the clients I've worked with either.
yeah.
I know that it is a common thing that is said, maybe in conferences and maybe interviews. I don't know what the origin is behind it, and I'd like to understand it better.
Yeah. But I do think ABA addresses autonomy. And when I'm doing a treatment, I want to, see your true authentic self. I want to recognize that. I want to be respectful of that. I want to get to know what your identity is for yourself. And I don't know if our treatments ever changed that.
I don't think so.
I mean, in mental health, people sometimes have compulsions. And, some of the compulsions we've seen is when extraordinarily upset or frustrated, self-injurious behavior.
Yeah.
So is treating self-injurious behavior and teaching more functional skills like, hey, I'm really pissed off right now and I don't want to do that and I need space and you need to get away from me, like that type of functional communication response, in place of getting so frustrated that you're pulling out your hair, your eyebrows, your eyelashes, hitting your head, slapping yourself, digging your nails in, scratching your face. Since those things are harmful, I don't want individuals to do that. So I'm not sure if that is masking to teach, but I just think it's a more functional expression. It still has autonomy and self-respect, but it's not harmful to yourself.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think always looking at safety first.
Always safety first. And autonomy.
And respecting that we all have different ways of thinking, different ways of expressing ourselves, and trying to guide that in a way that will help that person to reach their own goals.
Yeah. But are we teaching people to not be themselves? I don't think so. And actually, I really don't think ABA has that sort of power.
I don't think so either.
I'm in love with our science. I think it's really phenomenal. The potential is enormous. I think how our science works in the science of motivation and how behavior is shaped by your consequences, right? I think it's happening every day out in real life. And I think it also happens in nature naturally. I need to learn more about what the traits are. If the traits are stimming, as we discussed, I think everybody stims. And I don't think there's any harm in stimming whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so either. As long as it's not something that is physically harmful or dangerous, I think that it's fine. Learning to communicate socially, being able to have a conversation and interact with people. I think that is a skill that does require listening and understanding what people are talking about and recognizing when it's your turn to talk and when it's not. I think that can be really challenging for a lot of the people that we work with, but also we've seen great success with that too, if it's something that they're motivated by and they want to learn. But is that masking of a trait?
I think it's in settings, right? So applied behavior analysis means we're taking this science and we're looking at it from a setting lens as to what behaviors are being reinforced and what aren't. So if you're around friends and you're, acting like you're acting like your true authentic self, and that's being accepted, then I don't think, that's a behavior that we need to trait at all.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting concept. It came about, to my knowledge, like it started becoming really relevant about 4 years ago. And we saw it at that conference, CalABA. Is extinction ethical, especially when it may increase distress in the short term?
So I know that escape extinction is something that we typically do not use. And escape extinction meaning this is aversive to me. I would like to get away from this task, this food, this stimuli.
Oh, for sure. And that's that compliance.
Yes.
That's a really big critique. And I feel like that critique is somewhat valid.
I think so too. Yeah. I think that we go out of our way to make sure that we're not causing trauma, which I think can happen through an escape extinction where you're forcing someone to interact with a stimulus that they really don't want to have any interaction with at all.
Yeah, I think I've seen it in real life doing observations at other people's establishments and clinics. And I have the biggest problem with escape extinction for food.
Yes.
I do not think it is ethical or right or helpful or functional to shove any food in anyone's mouth that doesn't want to eat that. I've never done that as a behavior analyst. I think more and more behavior analysts need to take an empathetic lens. You need to see, how would that feel like to you?
Yeah.
You
Think
know?
of the thing that is most disgusting to you being forced in your mouth.
And that's 1984. That's coercive.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, you're doing something wrong. You need to stop immediately and, get a mentor.
Yeah.
Go to some conferences, get training, more training.
I believe strongly that that is something that really should not be done in a home setting, and certainly should never be the first thing that you do to approach feeding.
Oh, yeah.
I know it is done inpatient, and sometimes it might be appropriate. I'm not saying that it's not. It's just something that I would not do, and I certainly wouldn't do it in home.
Yeah, and I think it does produce trauma.
I think it does. And
Yeah.
then you can go from what is a pediatric feeding disorder to which is an acute disorder, which can change, to avoidant restricted food intake disorder, which is chronic. So we have to be really careful about the things that we do, because we don't want to cause trauma that will then cause further problems down the line for the people we're trying to help.
I mean, not to go back to revisionist history, but do no harm, right?
Yeah.
Hippocrates, right?
Mhm.
Do no harm. So if you wouldn't want it done to you, don't do it to anybody. Really,
Yeah.
it's like, but then cost benefit.
Mhm.
In hospitals, there is force feeding. It's, intravenous, right? It's like,
Yeah. And I think that, those are other disciplines as well.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a behavioral lens that we're
Yeah.
looking at in a hospital setting.
So much of social engagement can be reinforced through social interaction. And attention extinction or planned ignoring is highly controversial. This is where the behavior analysts hypothesize that the behavior is likely to be maintained by social positive reinforcement in the form of attention or a tangible item. Tangible extinction, I have really no problem with. If someone is doing a maladaptive behavior that is harmful in order to get a tangible item like the phone, if they're hitting, if they're pushing peers and to get the ball,
And that's a natural consequence as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
then the
whether
ball goes
you're-
away, right?
Yeah. Whether you're in an ABA program or not, if you're engaging in those kind of behaviors for access to something that you really don't need to have.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not a need, it's a want. Looking for a toy at the store.
mhm.
Then, I think extinction can work,
I think so too.
When someone says, even for adults, when you're engaging socially at a party and someone says some weird comment or backhanded compliment to you, like putting that on ignore is probably a good thing. I think that works. But is extinction ethical when it may increase the distress in the short term? I think that comes back down to the cost-benefit ratio that we really need to look at in terms of treatment versus benefit.
Well, and one of the things that we do when we do use an extinction, whether that's tangible or attention, is that we first are providing them with the skill to get the access that they need.
Yes.
So we're giving them the appropriate language. We're also often encouraging non-contingent reinforcement of attention to reduce that desire to engage in a behavior that's maybe harmful to get that attention. So I think, there are two sides to a coin. You can't have one, you can't have extinction without having the replacement already.
Yeah. I have a really interesting story. I'd like to get your take on it. And it actually happened like roughly 10 years ago. So it's a nice timepiece. But had a little boy refused to get out of the car when his parents, when they got home. Refused for hours to get out of the car. Parents would spend excessive amounts of time trying to get him out. He would become physical. He did not want to get out of the car. I saw it. I looked at the antecedents, the behavior, the consequences. I saw it several times. There was a lot of parent engagement with the child, and that's powerful for a child. Like, when I can make the whole room stop and look at me, that's really powerful for a child, and even some adults.
Yes.
But we did do attention extinction, and we did it very safely. We had safety guards in place. We were in like 15 feet of the child. We were looking out the window. He couldn't see us. we ignored the behavior. We had the car door open. It was warm that day, so we put water in there, and we just said, okay, we're going inside. Bye, see you later. And that child sat in that car for over an hour
Oh, wow.
in like 80-degree California sun
Wow.
before he came up to the door and came in, and then it was like, oh, good to see you. But we did do planned ignoring, and it worked really well. He never did it again.
Yeah.
We waited him out. He never did it again. So I do think that can be powerful,
Mhm.
but you got to have safeguards in place.
Yeah.
It's got to be the right.
Yeah, because people can get hurt, if you don't
Yeah.
have that.
And it can produce trauma. So
Mhm.
an instance, I've never done this, but if a child was in desperate need of help or something like that, and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, do it yourself, and then I'm going to put this on extinction, planned ignoring, I think that's unethical.
Yeah.
Ignoring signs of distress are unethical. I don't think you should ignore it.
Mhm.
Should you go through the burst?
It depends what
Sometimes.
that looks like.
It depends.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it's good to have a behavior analyst in the moment.
Mhm.
Like when I do something like an extinction procedure, I always say we're going to be there to do the heavy lifting, because it is heavy lifting.
It
And you have to
is.
make real world treatment decisions in the moment,
Mhm.
gauging, do I have a scent? Does the ABA industry prioritize client outcomes over financial incentives? I don't think so. We don't make that much money. Honestly. I mean,
Do we prioritize outcomes over incentives? Did I hear it right?
yeah, or I guess what they're trying to say is financial incentives over client outcomes.
No.
No. In our private practice, we want to work with the best
Yeah.
people. We hire the
Yeah.
most experienced. It's about drawing great, phenomenal people to us and keeping them. So,
And there are a lot of ways to make money.
oh, yeah. This is
I
not the
really,
easiest.
yeah, I
Yeah.
find that behavior, healthcare, these are things that you do because you really genuinely want to help someone, and certainly you want to make a living. But no, we're not, you know, finance bros.
Yeah. No, not
No,
finance
no
bros.
yachts here.
Yeah, no yachts here. Yeah. And then, at Nurture Nature, we invest a lot in the team. And Denise and I are always trying to put things back in place. Like we have the Cadles coming to do a training on AI, the founders of PRT. And then I like to buy lots of toys and incentives and motivation and make a ton of visuals and have sensory toys. And so
And it's really about enriching lives.
it really is.
You
It's
know,
really about
staff,
Yeah.
Clients, families,
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah.
That's what's really rewarding.
I think when the board of directors is two behavior analysts with, zero business education, except for, street education and business, no, we don't even track those KPIs. Like, I think we went to APBA and we were walking down the streets, and a colleague came up to us and lovely, lovely person, very entertaining, and was like, how are you? And, we billed 950,000 clinical hours this year. And I was like, we don't even track how many clinical hours we bill in a year. Like, that's not important to us,
Yeah.
And then I was like, I had no idea the number, because I never even thought in the framework of that.
I do wonder about companies that are so huge.
Oh, yeah.
That have, they have places all over the country. How can you possibly know what's going on
You
if
don't.
you're that big? So I don't think that's true for our company. I think we
No.
strive to have excellent outcomes. But I do wonder industry-wide if there are maybe some that are maybe a little too big to really be impacting each individual in the way
it's
they'd
about the
like.
contingencies, right?
Yeah.
So when you have two behavior analysts making the decision
Mhm.
in shared governance, which we do try to implement
Yeah.
as much as
Yeah.
possible, I think that's very different than a board of directors of venture capitalists trying to pull. And we saw that with, trying to pull huge financial gains
Yeah.
as leveraging, right, equity and stakes in companies. Like, I don't I don't think children should be a part of that.
I
But I
don't
think
think so either.
healthcare in general, the big business, big pharma of healthcare, these contingencies, I believe, this is my
Mhm.
opinion, may not be supporting the best health, meaning
That's
that the science is out there,
absolutely
the
true.
treatment is out there, but we're
Yeah.
not getting the best care
Mhm.
um, because of financial incentives.
I agree with
You know,
that.
because ABA is part of the medical model, I
Mhm.
guess I have to kind of say yes, at times. I mean, definitely the financial incentives for insurance companies. I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
that can be a real hardship wrestling those authorizations. And now it's getting harder and harder and meeting medical necessity. And the amount of contingencies on us as practitioners is truly intensified over the last 3 years. But do we as an industry prioritize financial incentives over client outcomes? No.
No.
We actually have very important values in our science of social
Mhm.
validity and doing no harm and making sure that we're
Yeah.
improving the lives of others.
Absolutely.
Last question. What does truly ethical trauma-informed ABA look like?
I think it starts with the individual because trauma looks different for me and for you and for everyone that we meet based on their history,
Yeah.
based on what they have experienced. So I think, everything we've talked about keeps coming back to the individual, the goals they
Yeah.
have for themselves, um, and taking into account what experiences they may have had that may affect the way that we approach a behavior. I think about escape extinction again.
Yes.
If you have a client that's experienced abuse, for example, or that has been neglected, you're probably not going to do planned ignoring, for someone who's experienced a lot of neglect.
Yeah.
If you've had someone who has had physical abuse, you're probably not going to do any physical prompting, which we don't unless there's a safety issue, right? So I think trauma-informed care in ABA really comes back to looking at the individual and seeing what's right for them.
And I can see it in my own life with like, I hate going to the dentist because for me it's torture. And, I had bad experiences as a child where it's like, she's a bleeder, so like there's trauma there for me.
Yeah.
In California, we have the ACEs Aware certification that's actually free to all clinicians, where you can get certified in trauma-informed care, which I have done.
Mhm.
Have you done that as
Yes,
well?
I
Yeah.
have.
And I think that's really important because it talks about real contingencies that affect real health outcomes.
Mhm.
Like, why aren't they taking their meds?
Yeah.
Why do they still eat these foods when they know it's harming them?
Mhm.
Why do they not prioritize sleep? Like, and so
Yeah.
when you look at those contingencies, you really have to look at, is there past trauma?
Absolutely. And ACEs has actually grown. It used to just be looking at things that have happened in the past that will adversely affect you. Now they also have identified protective factors. Um, there's an image of a seesaw. So you'll have like on one side, you know, say abandonment or abuse, but then
Yes.
on the other side you have social support and you have, you know, health or emphasis on healthy activities, right? So these things can kind of balance themselves out, which I think is really helpful to look at what we should do then when we have this ACEs score and we see that this person has had an experience of trauma in the past, and what can we do to then tailor our approach to help them be most successful.
And I think that's one of the questions that you as a behavior analyst really wanted to explore becoming a nurse practitioner
Yes.
was, what are the contingencies, or why do people do things that are against their health, right?
Hmm.
Like, how is that? But that really comes from past histories of reinforcement,
Yeah.
you know,
The environment,
the
the
environment.
contingencies in the environment. Yeah, that's something that I'm hoping as I expand into primary care, I will be able to identify the individual contingencies that are affecting people's behavior to then also affect their health, to meet their own goals and to do the things that they want to do.
Yeah, because let's be really real. Entering into any sort of treatment, whether it's ABA or it's any type of treatment, is scary.
Hmm.
It's scary. And you sometimes enter into it because you have real problems, health problems, or real fears.
Hmm.
Um, any time we're doing early intervention with parents, Denise and I always say they're precious families because you have to hold them with great respect.
Mhm.
Um, you have to actively listen. And a lot of times, when a parent gets that their child has a diagnosis, they often say to us, it's the worst day of my life,
Yeah.
and they need to be supported and they need hope,
Mhm.
and I think going through some huge health wars in my family, that positivity, that hope, uh, that can do a lot of good when you bring in a lot of good vibes and positivity, and it's going to be great. And we're going to make progress.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that ABA does extraordinarily well.
I would agree with that. I think that the primary care could learn a lot from ABA in that way, because I think when you have 15 minutes with a patient, because insurance is dictated, you need to see 30 in a day. Um, yeah, there are things that just get missed, that
Of
get dropped.
course.
You really don't have the time necessarily to invest, and I think that you get a lot better outcomes and you get a lot better care if
Uh,
you could
yeah.
really just address that person with everything they bring with them. Everything from home. Why are we engaging these behaviors? What is this doing for us? What could we do to make a change? Um, I'm hopeful that as we move forward into the future, some of this research is going to pan out in some change.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
hopefully we get some serious reform
Mhm.
on the insurance companies that are demanding all these unethical, in my opinion, I will state this is my opinion, unethical, unrealistic treatment models, and then don't blame our science,
Yeah.
like
I think that the insurance companies have a contingency where the bottom line is the most important thing,
and the
not
bottom
the
line,
healthcare,
yeah.
not the healthcare outcome, and that is completely in conflict with what we want as a society, to be healthy and to be well. So let's work on that, huh?
Yeah, let's work on these contingencies, but our science has data.
Mhm.
And that makes a big difference because you can show systemic progress,
Mhm.
and that progress builds hope
Yeah.
and potentiality of what can be possible. And so, those baby steps to greatness with our data and being able to show that we're making progress, even at the
Yeah.
incremental level, I think is so helpful to any person wanting to do change.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes, when you're running, you got to walk around the block first before you can run a marathon. And, I
And
think the
each
data
step,
helps that each
yeah,
step.
each step is something to celebrate.
Yeah. And observable and measurable things, I think are also very important because then we can track the smallest change and provide hope based on that. So,
Pretty great.
5 hot topics in ABA. So hot, so controversial. We're burning up. But thanks so much for joining us on Acorns to Oaks. I'm Kristine Dixon.
I'm Sarah Moreau, and we really want to engage with you. So if you have some thoughts you want to share, please comment, please subscribe, please just reach out and let's have a discussion.
Like us or don't.
Yeah.
That's okay too. We believe in autonomy.